Hello. So this is Charles Wolfong, and this is going to be my final. I'm going to do the 10-minute video instead of the paper, and I'm just going to reflect about the course, and also talk about like how I've related kind of my experiences of natural disasters to the certain coverage of a certain topic, that being hurricanes, not really anything else I've really experienced. So we're gonna reflect on that, but first I can talk about like the course topics and everything. I really picked this class specifically initially as a science requirement, but there's a bunch of options, and this one was just really interesting to me because like I feel like it's a topic that's not really paid attention to as much as just certain other stuff like chemistry or biology are more simple and maybe easier to understand, but some as specific as natural disasters, I really found it to be not only enjoyable to learn about, but informational to discover not only why these events might take place, but that even some of them, like forest fires, for example, or climate change, are profoundly affected because of human interaction, and finding that out might not be like the most like comforting thing, but it also makes me realize that if something can be caused by humans, it could also maybe be fixed by humans. So, with other stuff like hurricanes and tornadoes and tsunamis or cyclones, flash floods, those aren't really created by humans. But stuff like forest fires and climate change, I feel like, are more easily fixed because we are more common to create those. But I also wanted to touch on hurricanes specifically because of everything that we went over. Hurricanes was definitely the one that was easiest to understand because of where we live, or maybe not we, but like specifically where I live, that being Pennsylvania, and experiencing a couple hurricanes. Not obviously, it is a more common East Coast thing. So, I've never had to deal with a tornado, and I've never had to deal with like an earthquake past like a magnitude of 2, I think. So, hurricane was really an interesting topic to go over because I feel like not only me, but a lot of the other discussions I read was able to feel more connected to that topic because of hurricanes like Iran, but also more specifically Sandy, and hearing the stories about people that lived in New Jersey, and then also stories about people who lived in Pennsylvania or New York. It was a lot. It was a lot of impact at that time, and I'm thinking about like how mitigation was for myself and my family, and I would think back to that. Like I remember it's going back 10 plus years now, but I remember stocking up on food, for example, thinking about like school had already, for example, canceled that whole week. They basically, my elementary school said, this ain't happening. We're not going into school. You're going to basically stay home for this week, no matter what happens. Even if it's just a storm, we're canceling school this week. So, a couple days before, we're getting prepared, and we're buying a lot of non-perishable foods that don't need to be refrigerated. And I remember that specifically because on the great chance, and it did happen, the great chance that power goes out, you don't know how long power is going to be on for, or off for, I mean. So having to prepare for your power to be out is kind of something that you have to mitigate for. So having food that's not going to be disposable within a day, like for example, like if you're going to have milk in the fridge, but the fridge is broken, that milk's going to go bad. You can't drink milk anymore. So you're going to have to, find a different solution, which is water. For example, you have a lot of water. You can't have, for example, if some fruits are cut up, the fruits are going to go bad. So you have to, look for something else, like maybe like a canned fruit that's going to preserve itself for longer and stuff like that. And obviously, I'm talking about something that we only had a week that we lasted through, but this is something that can be really impactful for a bunch of other people that maybe are stranded for months, having that time to prepare and preparing yourself to have food and the essentials, I think is very impactful. Another thing that I remember specifically for Sandy was we, at the time, had a tree outside in the front yard that was close to the front window of the house. And I remember specifically being told not to go near that window, not to go near any window, but specifically that window. There's a lot of windows in the house, so it was kind of a little bit of a hard thing to accomplish, but I just remember not being allowed near that window specifically, and it was a smart decision. Although nothing happened to the window, the tree outside fell, which could have, easily crashed through that window, but instead it crashed into the street on the other side, so it fell towards or away from our house. So it was still a scary experience, but thinking about how you have to think and prepare your mind beforehand, because there's a possibility that this could become a real thing that could happen, even though it hasn't happened yet. You have to be prepared for that. So also, like, for example, like, you can go down to the basement during a hurricane, as long as there's no chance of flooding, because you don't want to be stuck down in the basement, because the basement's going to be the first place that's going to get flooded. But you also don't want to be in the top part of the building as well, so you want to kind of find that middle ground. So you always got to think ahead of stuff like that. Make sure, even simple stuff. Sometimes people sometimes people just forget to close windows, and you got to remember everything before that storm comes. And it's a great thing that we have like weather sources, for example, because for weeks we were told to be prepared for that situation, be prepared for anything. So I think honestly it's a great thing that we have that type of system in place. The only other thing that I can think of that I would talk about to be for mitigation, and this is a recent experience. So I work at a large corporation where it's a retail job, and we have a huge front window where all the doors are, looking outside to the parking lot. And when I was at work, and I work predominantly outside, bringing stuff inside, there was a tornado warning, so I was told by supervisors to come inside. And it's the only time I can remember a tornado warning happening, but I remember the high winds outside, and I remember this green hue overcasting the skyline. It looked like the sky was like turning green. It was very strange. But I remember thinking to myself how unsafe it was to be in that building, because not only was I directly located looking outside the window, this huge window, so if something was coming, it was over. And thinking about that building, there's just a bunch of shells. There's nothing really to hide under. You might be able to find a wall, but with thousands of people in that store, it's rough pickings. There's not that many options. So I remember thinking to myself, and there wasn't any better option besides staying in the store, because I wasn't going to go to my car and drive away. So thinking about being in that situation, the only thing I really had in mind was thinking about where I can maybe hide my head. But there isn't that many options when it comes to being in that big of an area. It's such an open area too. It could just pull you away, or like some of the non-bolted down shelves could just fall right on you. It's a terrifying experience, just the thought of it though. So that's all I really have to say about that. I really enjoyed this course. I'm glad that I took it, and I hope that I can maybe find something else like this that I can sink my teeth into as much as well. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.